Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Hook. Tracy here, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make these adorable little chenille baby booties. Now these ones do look very girly, apart from, well, I suppose this one is a unisex colour, but you can make them a little more boyish if you want. They are just boots after all, but with this one I've put a variegated edging around and made a variegated tie, and with this one I've just chose lemon and white. But you can do whatever you want. You see, you can, that's what they look like blank. And with this one, I was just going to put a little ribbon around those. But these are all size 3 to 6 months. And you can make them larger or smaller simply by changing the crochet hook size. So all of the materials that I'm using today are available in my shop, hobbyrocks.co.uk. There's a link in the description box for it and a voucher code. So I ship worldwide. I just want to point out that shipping is weight-based, so it's proportionate, so there's no worry, you don't have to order lots. So there we go, these are the yarns. I'm not using this colour, however, I'm using the lemon because I want to make the other one to this. But I will just say that I find this chenille a little bit thinner, although it's a chunky, and it is a chunky yarn. Some chenilles are quite stiff and are quite fatter, whereas this one is more drapey. So how I make these bigger then, or smaller, is by changing the crochet hook size only. So if I was making these in a newborn or a 0 to 3 months, I would use a 3.5 crochet hook. I don't think I'd like to go down lower with this yarn on that. But this is a 4mm and it makes this size. If you went up to a 4.5, then it would make a little bit bigger, and a 5 obviously would make bigger still. So that's how you kind of make it 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12. Okay, so I'm going to show you then. I'm just going to clear this stuff out the way. So if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and let's get started. So for this, you just need to make a slip knot. And we don't need a very long tail. We're going to be working over it anyway. And we're going to do 10 chain. Now you don't want them tight, but you don't want them really baggy either. Just nice, normal tension. There we are. So before I go, I just want to go and get something, and I'll be right back with you. Sorry about that, I wanted to get a stitch marker and I can't find one, so I'm going to use a piece of yarn. Okay, so a lot of criticism of this sort of yarn is that you can't see the stitches, but you can see the indentations. Okay, so that obviously the yarn that's on the hook doesn't count. There's 1 stitch, there's 2. We're going to go into that second one, and we're just going to do a US single crochet or a UK double crochet. And we're going to do 8, 1 in the next. Or 1 in 8 of those. So that's the second one. I go with trouble with that curling in. Okay, so we've got 1 more stitch left, and in that last one we're going to do 4. Whoops, need to take the yarn with you. Right, now we've gone round the corner, we're going to go back, and we're going to work in these stitches until we get back to this first one here. So we're going to do 7 along this edge, okay? And I'm going to work over the tail as I go. I know it might be difficult to see on camera because white does tend to kind of flare and make it harder to see. But I did want to make them lemon and white. This really does only work with fluffy kind of tufty yarn though, I will say. If you try to make it with the other yarn, it's not quite so nice. Okay, so we're now at the back, right at the back again, and we're going to do 3 in our last one. And the reason we're doing 3 is because we've already done 1 to start the round. Okay, so now I'm going to slip stitch into that first stitch. Okay, and I'm going to do a chain. Now I'm going to put a stitch marker here because with the white yarn it is very difficult to see when you're back at the start again. Okay, so now we're going to do 1 in the next 7. Okay, in each of the next 4 stitches, I'm going to put an increase. So I'm going to do 2. Okay, so now we've gone around the corner. Now, some people, when they're making these booties, they tend to do half trebles at this part. So you get the proper shoe shape and it gets narrower. And I think that's important for adults and for older children. But for babies, not so much. They tend to have straight feet, really. So I don't think it really is that important. So we're going to do 7 along this edge and meet up with the start. And we're going to do our 4 increases. Try not to put the yarn in it. Okay, now we're back round to our start. We need to pull some more yarn. Okay, need more than that, I think. Right, so I'm going to pull this out and I'm now going to slip stitch into my first stitch. Do a chain, cinch it down and put my yarn back in, because believe me, I have frogged a few of these because I couldn't find where I started. So again, I'm going to go into the first 7 and I think this is going to get in the way. I'll try not to make it get in the way. I'm going to put the yarn over. What am I doing? Almost. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that's fine. I want to go in this first one. Hopefully that's not going to get in the way. There we go. 1. If you do miss a stitch, I don't think it makes a great deal of difference in this sort of size, you know, really. So now we've got round and we're going to do the increases again, but we're not going to do the same. We're going to increase in one and do a single in the next. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so again, we've gone around there. And now we're going to go down this edge again with our 7. You may have 6. Doesn't matter too much, as I said. Okay, so once you get to this end, again, we're going to do our increase single, increase single, increase single, increase single, and get back to our beginning. Pull this out, and then we're going to slip stitch into our first stitch, and this time we're going to end off. So when you cut the ends of this, you do make fluff. There's that's just the way it is with this kind of James C. Brett, Flutterby and other chenille yarns. They are lovely to work with, but they do make a little bit of tuft fly in here and there, which can get up your nose. So there we go. That is our sole. Timestamp 11:35. Okay, so now we're going to start working on this part. And remembering that this is our right side and that's our wrong side. Okay, so when we look at, we want to have that side showing. Now, if you're very careful and clever, you can do that nice invisible kind of join, but never mind if you're not. So I'm just going to join it at the same place, but I'm going to go in the back loop only. Now, if you look at this, and it's going to be hard to show you on the white, but you can just about make out, there's the back loop, there's the front loop. Front loop is there, back loop is there. Okay, and you can see, if with the naked eye, you can see it an awful lot better than I can with through a camera. But when you're actually holding the yarn, it is so much easier. So I'm going to give these a little knot. I know some people don't like to do that, but I'm just going to knot these because it's going to be on the inside of the sole, and it's really going to make no difference whatsoever. And we're going to work over the tail, which I'm hoping isn't going to get in your way. So what we're going to do is we're going to work in the back loops, and we're going to do half trebles, which is a UK term, half double in the US. So there's the first one. And what we need to do is we need to go in that back loop. So finding the back loop, then I'm going to get my tail in. I want to show you how to get into those back loops. So there you go, front loop there, and there's the back loop. Again, front loop there, back loop there. Just gonna, and that will leave a nice little ridge around the outside. As you can see, it's appearing there. And we're just going to do one in every single stitch. And normally, if you haven't lost one along the way, which as I said is no great problem, really. You should have 38 stitches all the way around. So I'm just going to get along and do one in the back loop of every single stitch around, one half treble, or that's a UK term, and one half double US terms, all the way around, and then I will meet up with you. I'll pause it, meet up with you when I get back to this one. Okay, so I have one more to do, and that's my 38. And then I'm just going to slip stitch into my first stitch. I'm going to do my chain and cinch it down. So now we don't really need our little stitch marker because our stitches are nice and big and we're not going to mistake them. Plus they're lemon now, so it's fine. Now, a lot of people don't like, as I say, they can't find the stitch definition. So now it's fine if you're going to go in between the stitches. So I'm going to do my first two. So just bear with me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to do my first two. So there's my first one in the stitch that I'm in. I don't want any gaps. And there we go, 2. Now we're going to do some decreasing, and I'm going to show you a little technique that will make this look nicer. So as you can see, sometimes when you just decrease around this part, you get some gaps and they look particularly a bit nasty. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in the front loop only. So this bit at the front here is the front loop, and you want to just lift it up so you're going in just one of those stitches. The back loop is behind. You just want one of them. And we're going to pull up a loop. So we're going to do round the hook, round the front loop, pull up our stitch. Then we're going to go into the next front loop and yarn over and pull through. So we've got 4 on the hook, and we're going to go through all 4. So we've now combined those 2 stitches. We're going to do it again. We're going to do this 9 times, but we really just want to go in those front loops if we can, because it makes it an awful lot neater. 2. Okay, just the front loops. If you hold it upwards instead, you should just be able to get, it's harder for me with the camera and equipment in the middle, but as you can see, it's making them nice and neat. If we just did them the normal way, you'll see the difference. See how bulky they look? That does start to look a bit ugly as we're going around. You can do them that way if you really have to. Whoops, it does help to put your hook in, Tracy. If you can't master it, then it won't make too much difference. It'll just be a little less neat at the front. So I've forgotten how many I've done. I think this is my 4th one. I will count them. No, is it? Hang on. Is that? I think it is. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So if you hold it the right way, it just pops up for you. That one little front loop will just pop over the hook. Just one. Forgotten again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7. 2 more to do. You'll be relieved. So that's the last one for this round. And as you can see, it's starting to cup like a shoe. So now I'm going to do 1 in each one around until I get back to this one. Okay, just 1 in. You can go again in between the stitches to make it neater and easier to spot them. Causes less gaps as well. So because that's a little boring to watch, I'm going to pause it and I'll catch up with you again when I get back to where we began. Okay, I'm back at where I was. I've done my slip stitch. I'm going to do my first 2. So there's 1, 2. Now I'm going to do 5 decreases. And I find that these ones are a little easier to spot because the stitches are wider. So 1, you can hook them with that side if you want. 2, 3. Gets a little tight going around there. 4, last one. Okay, and then we're just going to go back to doing 1 in each until we get back to our start, just as before. So I will pause it now and meet up with you when I get back to the start. Okay, so now I've got back, I've done my slip stitch, and this is what it's starting to look like. It's looking a little bit more shoe-like sort of thing. Okay, so now we're going to do our last decrease. We're going to do our last decrease row. We're going to do 2 normal stitches as before, and now we're going to decrease 2. So there's 1. Don't worry if it puckers in. If it helps you find the stitches, you can always pop it back out afterwards. Next one. Trying to get that front loop. Okay, I'm going to do it with hooking it. Do it any way you can. 2. Okay, so now once again we're going to do 1 in each all the way around until we get back to our start. And once again I'll pause it and meet up with you when we get there. Okay, so this is what it's looking like now. There's our last decrease round. So this now we're going to be working on this particular row here. And some people might tell you when you're doing a row like this to do a stitch, a gap, a stitch, a gap, a stitch. I'm not really keen on the boots having a gap. So I feel like if you just do 1 stitch in every single stitch around, then you can easily weave your yarn through it. I'll show you what I mean. So this is it. This is the row we're talking about. And you can just get your tie and easily with a darning needle weave it in and out, and that's what you'll get. I just feel like with a mitten it's fine, but with booties you don't really want the gap. So we're going to do our 1 chain, cinch it, and we're just going to do 1 half treble, half double, whatever you're calling them, in every single stitch all the way around. And this is for 2 rounds. Okay, so the next 2 rounds are identical. All right, you don't have to go in the back loops. You don't have to just pulling some yarn out if you wonder what I was doing. Yeah, just go in 1 stitch all the way around, just like that. So we're now moving upwards. I'm going to pause it. I'm going to continue, finish this round. I'm going to do 1 more and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so this is where you have a choice to make. You can either do that as the last coloured round and they will look like this, or you can do 1 more coloured round and they will look a little bit taller. So I'm going to do, obviously I need to make these match, and I believe, let's see, I need 1 more coloured round. I did 3 on this particular one. I did 2 on this one. So it just depends whether you want them to be shallower boots or taller. So I'm going to do 1 more round just to match the other one and I'll come back to you. Okay, so now I need to end off this colour and bring back the white yarn. I just need to find the end, there it is, of the white yarn. So this last round is very, very simple, and then we can make the tie. So I'm just going to end this colour off. Okay, there we are, but then we're going to work over that tail. So I'm going to join at the same space because might as well work just over the 2 there. Okay, and while that's there like that, I don't need a bigger tail like that. I can just do my little knot, be buried. This fuzzy yarn does hide a multitude of things. It's really quite good for that. Apart from the bits of fluff that fly off the end, which could get up your nose a little bit. Okay, so the very last round we're just going to do a nice little border of single US, double crochet UKs. all the way around the outside edge. Working over the tails. You want to do them nice and snug, not loose. Just finishes it off nicely. Okay, we're still working over the tail. It'll be easier when we don't have to do that. You won't be sort of confusing to look at. Nice and simple, just one in each, all the way around. Until we get back to the start. Didn't need to leave such a long tail there. So used to leaving a long tail for sewing them in. Of course you can sew them in if you want, but they are just as easy to work in with this yarn. There we are. So just go all the way around. I'm going to pause it, and I might as well not bother. Might as well nearly there now, aren't we? Should have paused it a while ago. Really. Okay, so we've only got one end to actually sew in, and that's well, if you count the ties. Okay, so now I'm going to slip stitch into my first proper stitch. Do a cinch it down. Leave a long tail because this one does need sewing. Okay, so there we are. There's our little boot. And there's our shaping, nice and neat. And this is what it'll end up looking like. So now we've got to sew that end in, which is ever so easy to hide in the chenille. And we've got to make the tie. So we're going to do the tie now. Now, it doesn't matter how big a tail you leave, because I snip it right off to the end. Okay, so I just make my slip knot, and I'm going to do 51 chain. So just simple. I'm going to pause it and count, because it will put you off if I counted 51. Now you don't want it mega tight. You want it about the same sort of tension that you did in your initial sole. Okay, so I'm going to pause it now and come back when I've got 51. Okay, so this 51 does seem rather long. If it is, I can always make another one that's shorter. But I'm going to end off by cutting it and pulling that last one through. So I've got a total of 50. And I'm going to weave it round though that inner loop. So I'm just going to thread this needle, which is a nice big eye. So nice and easy. And get rid of all the tufts, which are very annoying. Now you want to look at it and look at where your centre is. So we are going into this part here. So I'm going to ignore that middle one. And I'm just going to go in and out between these stitches. Okay, and just pull it through. And you want to leave a bit, about that much, roughly. Doesn't matter, you can always even it up at the end. But we're going to go in and out all the way around. Making sure you don't go down, you stay on the right line. Almost there. Okay, so we're back there. I'm going to leave that middle one again. And I'm going to pull these out. Now I'm going to cinch these really tight and just cut them. I don't find this ever comes undone. It's pretty good yarn really for that. Once you've cinched it really tight, and you leave a little tufty end, which will probably fall off. But if it should ever come undone, then you can put some ribbon in or just make another. And this one, where did I put my needle? Good question. There. Just going to work this in. And then all we have to do is tie our little bow. Or if you'd prefer, you can make it out of, I'd say, normal yarn. You know, any acrylic yarn or whatever, you know, just to kind of, I'm going to go down into that first stitch. to pull that knot back inside. Just pulls it out of view. Now it's gone. And then you can just weave this along nice and easy and bury it. You can bury it in amongst all of the stitches, not just the white ones. I would just occasionally give it a glance on the right side to make sure you can't see. No, you can't see. I'm going to go through those ones. Can't see it? That's fine. So you won't see the yarn either. Pull that through, and I'm just going to go back the other way. So I'm going to find another one to go through and then go back. It's easier said than done when you're trying to do it with equipment in between you. There we go. I'm going to go back, pull it through, and then just snip. I'm going to put it a little tighter and then snip that off, and then it will disappear inside. So there we go. Get rid of the tufts that have appeared. So these are kind of even sizes. Just really all you need to do is a little bit of a thing, pull, a little bit of a pull, and then just do your bow. And it's nice and matching the other one. Doesn't look like it does it? But it does. Just obviously needs pulling. I've got a little shoe thingy in this one, that's why it's pushing it out, whereas this one's all scrunched. But that's it. That's my little booties. It does look smaller, but it won't when it's stuffed. So thank you for watching. I hope that it wasn't too complicated or any way misleading because of the kind of yarn. I don't think it would try to do this with furry yarn, but it might have been that I did it too late in the evening and I didn't have good light. But it was very, very difficult to do it with furry yarn. I'm going to have another go. But I'm going to do some mittens and a hat in this if I can get around to it. But that's my little booties. Thanks for watching. As I said before, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now. There we are. Before we go, I just wanted to show you they do look even once they've both got a foot inside them. So there we go. I pulled this one a little tighter as well, I think, and then that one. Okay, bye for now.